even with their limited services, other than
Well,
Westland?
it's hard to tell on Rochester, because I looked at Rochester's numbers. It appears to me that Rochester doesn't have a garbage tax, and GFL's pricing includes invoicing on a quarterly basis every resident of Rochester. So there's a whole
And they do
billing and
disposal
invoice
and
and
pickup.
accounts receivable built into that price, because I looked at it, it's way more than us, but then I started to think, wait a minute, they're actually sending an invoice.
They don't have tipping. They pay for disposal and pickup. That's why. And I got a price of $18.58 per resident per month, but that includes disposal and transportation.
And I think GFL had to build into that price all of their invoicing, which we're doing right through taxes. And the other thing I noticed in Rochester, won't profess to understand it too closely, but I think there's 10 to 15% of that $18 is money that they're kicking back to Rochester. There's a recyclables rewards program. So I think the residents of Rochester are getting rewards or awards that Taylor residents aren't. And I think if I'm reading the contract right, they're paying for it through the monthly fee they're paying to Rizzo. Because it talks about a 1.5% for recycle rewards, 2% for something else. There's 3 different kickbacks that go back to Rochester, at least in part due to recycling.
So we explored that option, and we actually have an old proposal from them. I can't remember the company name, but it added about $100,000 annually to the cost. So making that same assumption, I would guess that there's some $100,000 number that they're paying for that we're not. And quite honestly, when you looked at the value, it was nice, and it was you know, they did some really cool things with helping the schools and really getting into the educational portion of recycling. But other than that, I couldn't justify it.
I'm not sure I would either. I'm just saying that's why our price seems lower than theirs, because they built all that into the price that Rochester's charging. Because it's $18.58 a month. They're getting billed by GFL quarterly. But then if you look at some pages, there's $163 per month per service unit for recyclable processing, 50 cents per month for recycling rewards, 25 cents per month for the city's Green City program. That's all coming out of the 1858 and going to Rochester. So I still can't do an apples to apples comparison to say does Rochester got a better GFL deal than Taylor, but so I'm not trying to go there or suggest that. I'm just saying what we can do is maybe learn a little bit from those other contracts. And the thing I liked about Rochester was the 15-month head start.
So, Mr. Chairman, so just so I'm clear, so we want to see if we can itemize the rate so we know what the cost options are in the event we decide to consider elimination of one or any of the programs.
I'm asking if we think that's a good idea.
I don't think it ever hurts if we can at this point get them to provide that to us. I don't think, you know, having more options at our disposal always helps us. I think the issue that you ran into is you've already requested it, and they didn't provide it.
And he didn't, no. He just gave, he did, well, I guess we could figure out, during the negotiation, I gotta find the paperwork, he gave us another bulk rate, just minus the recycling, and it was a blended over the 3 years, so it wasn't each year. It was a blended 3 years, and you know, a price with minus recycling was like $11 and some change, so it was still more than what we were paying the first year. You know, yeah, I gotta get this all done tomorrow before the council.
So is there,
Well, you better get busy.
can we extend by 30 days or something?
You know what, I think we can extend the contract as long as we honor the new rates starting July 1st. I don't think they'll have a problem with it. He did give us a rate to extend the contract, which is higher than the 1095.
For what time period?
1 year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a year, somewhere around a year, if we wanted to extend it. But I didn't bring it forward because the only reason I was thinking we'd do that to go out to bid again, I don't think that would have been a good idea because everyone knew the price and we can come to the same conclusion and get one bidder and bring it up higher than what he did on the first time. So we kind of got stuck. But I can talk to Sam. I think if the council can approve at least the rate, the 1095 rate, because that's not gonna change anyway in the contract for the first year. And then we can iron out some of this stuff in the contract.
Right. You know, before we had recycling every other week, and I didn't have a problem with it, but people tend to say, well, you know, people get confused and blah, blah, blah.
But it's the same amount.
But it's gotta be less, because they're not running the trucks as much. You know, there's gotta be some kind of rate reduction, you know? I mean, it's an option not to get rid of it 100%, and I'm not saying we would. It's just,
That's why I was saying either a reduction or an elimination, even
right,
both.
yeah.
Right, I mean, if we did an informal poll of our residents, or the people in this room, how many people have used bulk pickup in the last 4 garbage runs? Do you use it every pickup day? Do you use it once a month?
Not every once
See, now, when you
And is their
consider
price,
that,
their price is assuming they gotta do it every month.
we eliminated a lot of the dump passes based on having bulk pickup, so. I
Not
mean,
just
you
one.
You
might-
went down to one.
Yeah, but we also got rid of, you have to be homesteaded also. That wasn't part of it. You could be a renter before and you get 2 dump passes. Now it's homesteaded property and reduced it to 1.
So, again, there's challenges with all of them, right? I mean, if you go to bi-weekly pickups, I mean, at one point, we even contemplated, for the curbside, just going to, call it, schedule an appointment, right? I mean, if you just call ahead and say, hey, I'm gonna need them to come out tomorrow, at the time, what they said was, we're going to do it for X, and that X made sense, because, you know, we were getting the same value in terms of the cost, but we were getting additional services. Now we're at a point where maybe, you know, it's worth looking at, although it looks like we're still getting a pretty decent rate compared to everybody else. I think if I remember right, when this was approved by city council, the rate was approved already, correct? I think what was remaining was the contract.
The bid was accepted. They accepted the bid with the contract coming forward.
So if we can confirm that, we may be able to just postpone it, work out whatever details we need to work out, and then proceed with the higher rate on July 1st, but try to get the options built into the contract.
See, if you look at the bid documents, there was a line item for bulk pickup curb weekly, for side pickup weekly, recycling bi-weekly, recycling weekly, and fill it out.
Yeah, they just gave.
They put a lump sum number, drew an arrow in there, and blended all of them together in one lump
Yeah.
sum.
Yeah, I don't think
And
that's
and
the
if,
way to
if
do
we
it.
had 3 bids, we would have most likely threw this out. If it wasn't a low bid, I mean, it's still low bid, but usually when you get a bid like this, it's spoiled, you know. And then we wanted them to blend any increases in from each year, so we didn't want to do an increase for the first 3 years, so his rate should have included any kind of increases over 2 years, and he wrote at the bottom, 3% for each additional year after the first year, and that wasn't the intention of this contract bid at the meeting. So, and I did make my point to him and told him that, but it didn't change it. We had no leverage after he was in the bid.
So you said there was an option to extend it for a year.
This,
At a higher rate.
the initial contract is for years 1, 2, and 3, and there's two other options for year 4 and 5 for extension.
But no, like the current one for,
Yes, oh yeah, we sent you the email and had the letter for the negotiations to try to extend the contract. And because the language in the current contract says that we can extend the current contract with 3.5% increase as long as it is agreeable by both parties, and they instantly said, no, we cannot do that. I mean, that was, as soon as we sat down, they said, no, no way we can do it at a 3.5%.
Well, what's the rate if we just simply brought forward the 1-year extension right now? Well, it's higher than 1095.
Yes, it is. I can't remember what it was. I got it written down.
That wasn't in the letter you sent us, so that.
No, this was something that we talked about after we got the bids and this was something that we just talked about a couple weeks ago.
I mean, would there be an option to do that? And
To
go
extend
out
it for a year?
Well, and then go out for a 5-year bid or a 6 year, what you're saying.
Yeah, but the cost is, I want to say,
I know the rest.
1130 or 1185 or something. It was closer to 12,000 to extend the contract.
And just give
Matter
the
of fact,
a
I think I
potential
got it
options for
right
other
here.
bidders.
Rather we approve it, you know, with the changes and start the option now. Start our bidding process now, or in a year, you know. This time next year it goes out for a 6-year bid, whatever, you know.
All right. Yes, to extend the current contract for 6 months, the rate for the extension is $11.25.